I can't be a hype man. I'm hype
Oh
man,
my
bro.
god.
All right, go.
All right, break evens, stop losses, why we should go break even, when to go break even, and stuff like that. So let's get right into it. So the whole point in wanting to go break even is we want to go break even to make sure that we mitigate our losses when we think price is not going to go into our direction, or we think that price has reached a certain area where we don't want to take partials, or we take partials, or we think that since price has reached that area, there is a likelihood that it might reverse on us. So we're going to go break even and mitigate our risk just to make sure that if price does end up, or if we are wrong, we get out with a trade with no risk. So let's take an example, something like this. Let's say we took this inversion fair value gap long, or whatever, reclaimed fair value gap long here. So let's say we got in here, right? And let's say we had like a stop loss here, just really hypothetical, right? And let's say that we were looking for price to come all the way up to these relative equal highs, right? Where we think price comes to a certain point where we think we're wrong. Let's say price ends up coming down, and then it takes this liquidity here, or we reach like this fair value gap here, right? It's at this place where we want to think, okay, maybe we should start mitigating some risk, because since price has reached here, there is a chance that price can come back down to and completely knock us out, right? And the idea is also, once price is all the way up here, right, you really don't want price to come back down to your entry, right? If that makes sense, right? If you're entered down there, right, it really doesn't make sense for price to come down to your entry. So now, how do we make sure we're not going break even too quickly, right? Again, there has to be a reason for why we want to go break even, and we shouldn't go break even just emotionally, right? So again, we want to go break even at a point where we think that the market has a chance to reverse on us, or we think and we see that price is not moving in our favor that much. So that's why we want to go break even, and we want to be able to mitigate that risk.
While they're sending their trades in, let's do like a quick example of your own. Just like example where in what scenario you'd go break even. Like what are the criteria and the requirements?
Okay. Let me see. Let me try and think of a trade. Did you want me to send a trade I got break even on?
No, not like a specific trade. If you want to do that, you can, but like just on the charts in itself, like a mock-up trade. Just for example, you want to see this happen before you go break even, things like that.
Okay. So let's say generally, right? Let's say you want to target this low, for example, right? And we understand where the low hanging fruit is, right? The low hanging fruit objective, right, would be this low here, right? So let's say you got in on this SIBI here, right? Now, you have a couple options, right? Or at least the low hanging. Okay, hold on. This one doesn't work that well because the low hanging fruit was taken before we even went into the entry. Hold on. Let me find a better example. Let's say you guys were trying to target these relative equal lows here, right? And you wanted to go, and you ended up going short here, right? Thinking, okay, we made relative equal lows with this low here. We have more relative low resistance lows here, right? Let me get short on this SIBI here, okay? And okay, let's say you went short on the SIBI right here, right? Just right here. When price came back into it, and you had your stop loss, let's say above this high here, right? And you were targeting here. Now, where would be, now you have to do this analysis yourself, right? And everybody's invalidation point is going to be a little bit different, right? For me personally, my invalidation point is either reaching the low hanging fruit objective or reaching into a premium like fair value gap, SIBI, BISI, something like that, right? That's going to be my break even point. Those are my invalidation zones, right? So for example, let's say we were taking this as the low hanging fruit. This, right? Let's say we took our entry here, right? This, now that we've taken this low hanging fruit, right? If this for you here is going to be an like an invalidation point for you, then this is where you go break even. Why? Because why would this be a potential invalidation point is because price has taken this liquidity here, right? And if we really wanted to get into it, right, to make it to see what helps, right? It came into this hourly BISI as well, okay? All right, came into this hourly BISI as well as in the same spot. All right, you guys see that there? Same spot, hourly BISI here, right? So now this can be reasonably be invalidation point for us, right? So if you guys don't want to be taking partials like this, because potentially, okay, this RR isn't good enough for you. Hypothetically, right? Let's say you're looking for at least a 2R for a partial, right? And this doesn't give you that 2R. Then this is a good time to go break even because it hit an invalidation point right here, right? And it could also be something different. Let's say this is not your invalidation point here, but your invalidation point is, okay, if we take this and we get an inversion fair value gap, now I'm going to go break even, right? And then boom, you take this and you get an inversion fair value gap. That could be another break even point for you, right? Again, it doesn't just have to be, okay, price came into here. Price came into here and that's my break even point now, right? It could also be, okay, look, price came down, took the low hanging fruit, right? I'm still convinced it's in my direction, right? But if we get an inversion fair value gap here, I'm gonna go break even. Now that allows you to, or if we get an inversion fair value gap here, I'm gonna trail my stop loss to here, right? Allows you to secure some profits or whatever it is, right? So that way you can get break even, right? Let's say hypothetically there was just a giant wick and then it came right back down here, right? Then you still have your risk on, right? Or we never had a fair value gap here, right? There was no fair value gap here. So after taking the low hanging fruit, you're looking for an inversion fair value gap. There was no fair value gap here, right? If that is your way of invalidation, right? Then you would probably keep your risk on, right? So it's obviously all about looking for those invalidation points and seeing what, and understanding where your invalidation point is going to be.
Now, do you personally go break even a lot?
I do. Pretty much every trade I end up going break even before it hits TP. And obviously, again, SMT can be an invalidation as well, right? There is one model that I have where I don't go break even. There's one model I have where I don't go break even, and that's simply just targeting. For me, it's just a simple 1 to 2. And the only point I go break even is if there's SMT. If there's no SMT, then pretty much I'm never fucking break even on that model. But 90% of the trades I take, I go break even before my take profit is hit. And that's because usually, right? Unless you want to like allow the room to happen, or allow the room to breathe, or you're targeting, like if this was the case, right? I was targeting this as a low-hanging fruit objective, right? And I got in here, right? I would not be break even if, until price hit here, because this is a low-hanging fruit objective. This is my only invalidation point. Does that make sense?
Right.
If I'm targeting my invalidation point and I'm not looking for lower, then I don't move my stop loss to break even. Unless, I assume that price, or I think that price is not going to come back to my entry, and it all depends on how price is moving, if it's moving like sluggish or whatever, I'd allow it to bring room. But let's say I was targeting like this high as my low hanging fruit, right? And I got in on this institutional order flow entry drill, right? After I see these big displacements from my area here, right? I know that even though, right, that it hasn't hit my invalidation point here, right? I know that if this is supposed to be an institutional order flow entry drill, right? This should not come back to my entry, right? So once I see this institutional order flow entry drill, let's say I get in on it, right? Then once we start moving away from it, I'll go break even. Because my invalidation point no longer is this high. Well, it's also this high, but I'm targeting that high, right? My invalidation point is this is an IOFED. Price shouldn't come back into an IOFED after we went into one. So that's either a new invalidation point or my only invalidation point now. And then that's when I'll go break even. Cool. And obviously it could be used like the same way. Like let's say you were short like here, right? Let's say you took this short randomly here, right? And let's say you were thinking, okay, my only invalidation point is if we are going lower and we get an inversion fair value gap here, I'm going break even because price should not invert this fair value gap. There's no other fair value gaps here. So if there's nothing else that can bring me lower, right? Then this is my only invalidation point, right? Let's say because this is the low-hanging fruit objective and we're not counting this as a discount BISI, right? Let's say we're not counting this as a discount BISI. This is not an invalidation point for us. Just to go break even here. But we get this SIBI, and this is the only SIBI in this whole entire leg, and we think, okay, if this SIBI doesn't hold, I don't really want to be in this trade anymore. It's probably not going to go my direction. Okay, this is our new invalidation point. I'm going to go break even because we got this inversion fair value gap, right? And either we got stopped out, right? Or let's say our stop loss was all the way up here, right? And we were targeting here, hypothetically, right? Either, okay, I get stopped out at break even and price runs to my TP. Am I okay with that? I'm gonna have to be okay with that because If this was going to be my invalidation point, then I have to be okay with getting break even, right? And now if this is not my invalidation point and I hold out for this and I take a win, right? And if I don't consider that my invalidation point, then I have to be okay with being stopped out.
Yeah, no, this is good because it also helps you understand, what you're looking for actively, right? Which zones, which areas are your invalidation points. I mean, it just helps you just actively engage with the charts and not just let your winning trade go to a loss. But I think Leon sent in a trade example here, so let's kind of go over
He
that.
did. To go check that out real quick. You mind getting that time to me in EST?
Guys, to make this
9:15.
quicker next time, let's just everyone use EST for these
Yeah,
examples.
everyone's got to use EST for times, okay? Just so we're all on the same page, because if we have different times, right, it's gonna be hard unless you guys can send me a full picture of like everything that happened in the chart, or else I'm not gonna know where you guys entered all.
I have a question for Leon. So because we're on the topic of mitigating risk and going break even, we don't see the 1 minute time frame here, but I'm sure you're also checking the 1 minute time frame while taking entries off the 5 minute. Would there be a point in this trade that you go break even? Because I mean, it doesn't look like it's more than a 2 RR. So it's not like a low hanging fruit. It feels like that you would move to break even. I'm
Can you
curious.
pop up the screenshot on your chart?
No. You're good, bro. It is a good trade, but I'm asking you if there was if there would be a point in there.
I think it's too big.
Okay, that's fine.
Take it manually. There. Can't rotate it, so it's stuck like this. I mean, if I was to just go off this, it doesn't seem like a horrible trade, but
There's
it's a
no
little
point.
too
Okay.
zoomed in. And let me ask you, was your target just this high?
If his target was just that high, I mean, if I had to say anything about that, I would say you could definitely target higher opposing liquidity. And using what we're talking about right now, when we do hit that first internal right there, that could be a point of either a partial or a break even, depending on
Yes.
what kind of strategy you
Yeah,
have.
I agree. There's not
Full TP is up there.
again, there's nothing wrong with taking price, and everyone should understand this. There's nothing wrong with taking your take profit at the lowest hanging fruit possible.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to do that, that's what I do a lot of the time, right? If you want to do that and secure a trade, as long as it's an RR you're happy with, that's completely fine. There's not absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? But let's say hypothetically, for case study sake, right? I'll take profit was
I
at this
like
high
that.
here, right? It was at this high here. The second price goes above this high here. If you guys want to consider that an invalidation point because it's a low hanging fruit objective, right? I would personally, and given the reaction we had off of this fair value gap, move your stop to break even. There's nothing wrong with that, right? If you guys want it to trail, obviously you guys can trail accordingly. I did a video on how to trail your stop loss while you're in a trade, how to manage your position when you're doing high RR trades and you don't want to get, break even and you want to secure a little bit of profits. It's in the YouTube section somewhere. Y'all can go watch that. Y'all can find it. Real quick video, real good. But in short, it's just trailing to us every single swing low that has an order block made.
Building off that though, I mean, just for Leon's sake, I mean, do you see the point of having a higher take profit and taking a partial there and moving to break even rather than just having the one and only take profit and never going break even? Because you're taking risk off the table while opening up opportunity for more profits all at the same time.
I think that, if you can take a partial, then you can take a partial there. Let's say you're trading, like one micro or one mini contract here, right? And you physically can't take a partial, right? Obviously, there's nothing wrong taking it at the low hanging fruit objective, right? Or if this is your draw on liquidity, right? There's nothing wrong with taking it off at the low hanging fruit, right? I think, in my opinion, a lot of people get caught up in, oh, I gotta catch these like really big moves. I gotta catch the whole thing from this fair value gap all the way up to this high. And in reality, you don't really have to, at least from my point of view, right? Your win rate is going to be infinitely higher if you just take it off at the low hanging fruit. And if you have the RR to cover your losses as well as to cover, anything else or to make enough profits, right? Then there's nothing wrong with taking it off at the low hanging fruit because you're guaranteed getting your max profit from there, right? But if you do want to take a partial because you are targeting here, let's say this is your draw on liquidity, right? Then there's nothing wrong with going break even here or taking your partial here, right? But if this was all you were looking at price to do, then there's nothing wrong with taking it off here and not needing to extend it, right? Even if you think price will eventually get here, right? There's nothing wrong with taking it off here. Now, again, something I discussed in the other lesson that we did was something that you can do, right? Is trail your stop loss. Once we take this high, put your stop loss at this high, right? And if price wants to displace through this high and not revisit it, you can end up targeting here. And that's what I do most of the time, right? I drag the second price hits my TP. So let's say I was here long. Let's say I was long like let's say, yeah, okay, sure. Let's say hypothetically, I was long right here, or like let's say I took this turtle soup, okay? And my take profit was like right here, right? And I had a stop loss here, right? This was all I was looking for price to target. However, I thought, or actually maybe better idea, use it here, right? This looks like an actual TP area, right? Okay, let's say, and then I could say I took it from here. This seems more realistic, all right? Let's say this was my trade idea, right? I wanted to target this high, right? And this wasn't the only high I was looking at. I was also looking at this high too. And this was my final and main draw on liquidity, right? But obviously for me, right, I want to take it off at the low hanging fruit, maybe because I'm able to, let's say because I'm able to at least get a 2R here, right? Again, there's nothing wrong with just taking it off here. But if you feel like you have high conviction of price going up here, the second price comes up here, what do? Is you just drag your stop loss right to this high here, right? So now this is our new high, right? This is our new high. We took that draw on liquidity. My stop loss went from either here or break even to this high. And now it's chilling here, right? And if it decides to get hit at this high, then I leave the trade with the same profit I would have here. And if it doesn't want to, like it does in this situation, and it wants to run to my main draw on liquidity, then it does, and I make that little bit of extra profit, right? But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with taking it off at the low hanging fruit, right? Because if you're risking enough, right? If you're risking a decent amount and you have an RR you're happy with, like let's say you only target 3R, right? And let's say you manage to get a 3 risk reward at this high, then there's nothing wrong with needing to target this high. Unless you were looking for 3R and you don't get it until you get to this high, right? You're only stuck with a 2, like a 2 risk to reward ratio here. And that's not what you're okay with, then obviously you can target this high. But if you're able to get your risk to reward ratio kind of checklist checked off at that high, then there's nothing wrong with just taking it off or moving your stop loss to this the second it gets taken to see if price wants to just displace through here, not come back to this high, right? And you keep your extra profits with here. Or again, obviously you can take a partial right here, go break even or trail, and obviously hold up to here, right? It's all personal preference and it's completely up to you. And obviously the more data you collect, the more times you take trades, depending on certain models, right? Maybe your certain model, right? You have the highest win rate when it's at this high, right? That is the highest win rate for your model, right? So then, and as long as you get your RR checked off, then there's nothing wrong with taking it off because you're following your model, right? If you want to extend for a relative equal high, you can by either taking a partial or doing the same thing that I said and just dragging your stop loss to this high. Does that make sense?
It's beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
Do we have exactly? Yes. Do you have any
Yeah,
more
no,
questions or trades we want to go over? And Jamie, go for it.
Huncho sent his trade in chat
Yeah.
talking about on Thursday how he entered shorts and got stopped break even. I didn't have a good entry. Okay, well, going off of just what I see there, I mean, I don't know your entry model, but one of the things that you need to learn when going break even on trades is having the ability to re-enter. So, like I said, I mean, I don't know your strategy, what kind of confluences you're looking for, but if it comes up like that, and let's say you're entering off an order block or something like that, and it wicks you out, stops you break even, and then comes back down and let's say like it did in versus a 1 minute for value gap, and that's enough confirmation for you to enter again, you can enter having a different stop loss re-entry, and now it's actually a higher confluence trade than the one that you originally took. So
Okay.
being able to differentiate that and adapt while getting stopped out break even is huge. Exotic, you got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, Huncho. Just so are you asking how I would have entered shorts on here? Or what is like your exact question? Did you want to know whether or not this would have been like a good break even point? Or did you want to know, okay, how would I have managed this position or how would I have entered in position? What's kind of your main question here? Okay. That's fine. No problem. Okay, so the first thing here is we want to know that I'll ask you real quick. I'll go over all that, right? Hunter, when you entered this trade here, right, where was your invalidation point? Where was your point that you said, okay, if price does this, I'm going break even? Was it taking out this short-term low? Was there like a higher time frame, like a 15-minute PDA right here that we came into or something, right? Or did you like the way price was moving that it shouldn't come back to your entry? If any of that was yes, then there's nothing wrong with getting break even there, right? You traded the way that you thought the market was going to do it, and if you got break even there, it's an unfortunate break even that happens. You know, it happens a lot, and it's completely fine, right? So if you know that that's why you had your break even, you know your draw was correct there, right? How would I have personally got in? I mean, there's honestly for me here no real entry, at least on the 5, right? If we wanted to go down to the 1, and I can explain it, you know, kind of my thought process on the 1, we can do that. But we can do that if you wanted to. Oh, it was from the 1-minute time frame. Okay, I see. That makes sense. Okay, so I don't know where you entered here, but let's say, are you looking for? Okay, so again, there's nothing wrong with getting break even here. This was good, right? This was a good break even, right? But let's say did you get in on this leg here, or did you get in on the come up here when it came right back up? Did you get in like somewhere here, or did you get in here? Okay, this is why, in my opinion, I emphasize taking that low hanging fruit, right? Let's say you were targeting here, right? If this is going to be your invalidation point here, right, and you go break even, that's fine, right? The reason why I like targeting that whatever that low hanging fruit objective, as long as the RR is worth it, right? It's because you can have shit like this, right? Let's say you were targeting lower, but you got in here, right? You can get stopped out, break even, because price took out this low, and there's a chance, right? Obviously, if you see price take out like a major low like this, most people are going break even after this, like most people, and that's the right thing to do, right? And then price comes all the way, chills at your break even point, unless you're like super confident about the draw, right? There's nothing wrong with doing something like this. Obviously, I understand your risk to reward. This aspect of it didn't make sense for you to take profit here, but this is why I emphasize taking profits at that low hanging fruit, right? Your entry was more like 807 ish. The stop loss at 879. It's around here. Okay, and got in on this 5-minute candle. That way I can kind of get this like as perfect as I can. Got it on this candle body here. Okay, maybe I was a little off. Okay, then it looks something like this, right? And at a 1-to-1 here, if you got in here at the 1 minute, right? In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with going break even here, right? You saw this happen, right? And if this was not an invalidation point for you, then there's nothing wrong with keeping your risk on, right? Now let's say price moves even lower, and let's say once price takes out this low here, this is my invalidation point now, right? Then there's nothing wrong with going break even here, right? But now you run the risk of I'm targeting way lower, right? Am I gonna get stopped out break even? And this is why I emphasize so much taking the low hanging fruit, because that is what is gonna make your win rate so much higher, right? Obviously, the high RRs aren't like there's nothing wrong with them; they're sustainable, but you're not gonna have as big as a as big of a win rate as something where you're targeting literally the low hanging fruit, the easiest liquidity possible, right? So does that kind of answer your question there? And then if you wanted a re-entry, if you see that price came up here, right, and you're kind of liking the way price is moving, you can re-enter in any one of these, civvies, right? As long as, you understand that, I'm willing to put the risk on because my draw on liquidity is still correct. Let's say we generated some lows here, right? You saw you got break even here. Okay, let me just look for the next SIBI. As long as it makes sense, I'll do this, right? And I'll take it off at this low, right? Or I'll take this trade here, stop loss here, and I'll take it off at this low, right? And this is again why I emphasize taking your trades out at the lowest hanging fruit possible. This is your low hanging fruit right here, right? Boom. You take this here. You get out fully here. You can drag your stop loss down to here. You can get out fully here because price comes right back up to your break even point. Does it continue lower? Yeah, but why would you want to risk getting break even there? Does that make sense?
Perfect. I say that
Off of what?
sums up the stop loss video for now. Now, Jamie, go for it.
Well, I was just going to continue to talk about re-entry, but I mean, it
That
seems
could
like a
be
lot
for
of people have
another
questions
time.
about that, and yeah, that could definitely be a question because re-entering,
It's a
one
whole
is a
nother thing,
very
bro.
it's a whole nother thing, bro, and it's so person specific that in I mean most cases, a lot of times when you are dealing with, you know, tweaking out your own personal strategy and going break even and whatnot, re-entering can, like I said, be a very person specific thing. We all have different strategies and different ways that we see the market. But there is technique that is involved in doing it. So yeah, we heed that you guys are interested in that. So we will probably go over that next week or the week after.
Yeah, because if you do it wrong, it'll just end up be FOMOing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it could
and you
be
can
a
definitely do it
loophole of
wrong too, because
exactly.
there's price coming back to your entry and making it a higher confluence, and there's price switching direction, and your bias should change, and then you get stopped out and shit on twice, which is not what we want.
Exactly.
So, so yeah,
Yeah,
we'll definitely talk about that another time.
for
Shout out you,
sure.
Samuel. We'll get you right, brother.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We didn't do the week recap yet, did we?
Ooh, we
Nah,
didn't. The video's
I
getting
can
long
Damn.
though.
go over that.
The video's getting. How long have we been doing this? I mean, it's only been like 35 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
You can split it up into two if you want. You can just
Yeah,
get rid of the weekly recap.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.